Hello, and welcome to 6.5 Notes. So, what we're going to be working on today is the remainder and factor theorems. Now, this may seem like, what does this have to do with what we've been doing? But this is just another way to think about our factoring and just ways to simplify our polynomials. So, this is how it all plays out. But before we start looking at polynomials, let's just review our long division, okay? We learned this before, so we should know how to do this, but here we go. This is just review. So we say, looking at our 3, how many times does 3 go into 7? Well, that goes in 2 times. So we say 2 times 3, that's 6. And then from here, we subtract 6 from 7. So that's 1. We bring down our next term, our 4. So then we say, how many times does 3 go into 14? Well, that goes in 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. So then from there we subtract 12 from 14. That's 2. And then we bring down our next term, 4. So we say, how many times does 3 go into 24? Exactly 8 times, because 8 times 3 is 24. When you subtract these, you get 0, but you need to bring down your 3. Then you say, how many times does 3 go into 3? Well, 1 time. And then you say 3 times 1 is 3, so you end up with 0. So your final answer then is 2,481. Let's look at this next one. So we say, how many times does 9 go into 5? Ooh, well, it does not. So we say, how many times does 9 go into 57? Well, that goes in 6 times. So 6 times 9 is 54, and again we subtract, so that leaves us with 3. We bring down our 4. How many times does 9 go into 34? That goes in 3 times. 3 times 9 is 27. Subtract those, leaves us with 7. Bring down our 4. How many times does 9 go into 74? That goes in 8 times. 9 times 8 is 72. Subtract those, then we're left with 2. Okay, so from this point we would say, how many times does 9 go into 2? But it doesn't make sense. It's going to be a fraction. So a way that we can get around that is we can add a decimal here, and then add a decimal on top, and add a 0. So then we could bring down this 0. Now we say, how many times does 9 go into 20? Well, that goes in 2 times, put on the other side of the decimal. 2 times 9 is 18. Get a 2. Okay, well, maybe let's add another 0 onto here again. Bring it down. How many times 9 go into 20? That's 2. Times 2 is 18. Get 2. Okay, so this process seems to be repeating itself, and it does. So when this happens, maybe we could just put a repeating sign over there. But all this is saying is we can write this in 2 different ways. We can write this as 638 R2, remainder 2. So it's one way that we can write it, which you may be familiar with. Another way is we could say 638, and since we had 2 left over, we were dividing this whole thing by 9, we are left with 2 9ths left, okay? And if you wanted to put this in your calculator, you would get 638.2 repeating, which, if you did 2 9ths in your calculator, is 0.2 repeating. So either way you write it is okay. So this is just a short review, okay? So now let's look at it with polynomials. And so, like I said, this is just another way to think about our factoring or just our simplifying our polynomials, okay? So looking at this, we start off, we're writing it like this as x cubed minus 4x squared minus 19x minus 14 divided by x minus 7. So just like before, when we're dividing by the number that goes on the outside of our division bar, and everything else, our bigger number, goes on the inside. Okay, so just like before, we say, we want to say how many times does this whole thing go into x cubed. But to do that, we're only going to focus on this x, this first term. Okay, so we say, how many times could x go into x cubed, or how many times could we multiply a number or x by itself to get x cubed? So that would be x x squared. Oh, don't know why you don't like it. X squared. There you go. Okay, so then we say if this is x squared, you would multiply, just like we did above, this whole thing, x minus 7, by x squared. That would give us x cubed, and then x squared minus 7 is negative 7x squared. Stop that. I don't know what you're doing. Okay. There we go. Okay. And just like before, we need to subtract this whole thing. But something that's a little bit different is you need to think about distributing that negative. So it's not just subtracting this x cubed, it's subtracting this 7x squared as well. So when you do that, your x cubed cancels, and you're left with negative 4x squared minus your negative 7x. So that's like adding your 7x squared. So this actually becomes a 3x squared, and just like last time, we're taking this term and we're bringing it down, so that is 3x squared minus 19x. So now we're saying, just like before, how many times could x go into 3x squared? Well, that's going to be a positive 3x. So we multiply 3x by x minus 7. So that gives us 3x squared. 3x minus 7 is negative 21x. And just like last time, we need to subtract and think about distributing this negative. If you want to make this a plus, negative, plus, that is totally fine, but make sure you do that correctly. So then 3x squareds cancel, and you're left with a 2x. You bring down this negative 14, and you say, okay, how many times can x go into 2x? Well, that is just a 2 times. So then you would multiply it out to be 2x minus 14. But again, you are subtracting that. So you are, if you distribute that, you are actually adding your negatives. So your 2x's cancel and your 14 cancel, and you're left with 0. Okay, so that means we don't have any remainder, and when you divide x minus 7 by x cubed minus 4x squared minus 19x minus 14, you will get as your answer x squared plus 3x x plus 2 as your final answer. Okay, and one of the most important things here is you must subtract. Okay, don't forget that for this. Okay, now let's try one more. Right below, we have to fill it in ourselves. Okay, so given 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed plus 5x minus 1 divided by x squared minus 2x plus 2. We need to write this out. So this is going to be on our outside, just like before. So we have x squared minus 2x plus 2. Oh, stop that. Okay, plus 2. That's on the outside. And on the inside, we have, we're going to have a 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed plus 5x and a negative 1. One thing we need to note, though, before we had a cubed, a squared, x to the first, and x to the 0 power. Here we have a fourth, a third. Oh, where's our squared? Oh, we're missing our x squared. So that should be right in there. So since we're missing it, we need to add, so we need to insert a 0x squared into our equation. This just helps keep everything in order, and you'll see why as we solve these problems. So we have 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 1. Okay. This is what we start out with. So now let's do exactly what we were doing before. Don't forget this 0x squared. We need to say how many times can we fit x squared into 2x to the 4th? That goes in 2x squared, or multiply those two together, and that would give you 2x to the 4th. And you're multiplying this by your negative 2x, so that would be negative 4x to the 3rd. 2x squared plus 2 is a plus 4x squared. Okay, and remember here we are subtracting. So our x to the 4th go away, and this is a positive 3 minus a negative 4, so that is a positive 7x cubed. And then we have a 0x squared minus a 4x squared, so that's minus 4x squared. Just like last time, we bring down our positive 5x. So now we say, how many times does x squared go into 7x cubed? Well, that is a plus 7x. So we'll multiply that out. We'll get 7x cubed. 7x times negative 2x is negative 14x squared. 7x times 2 is plus 14x. And again, we are subtracting. So 7x cubes cancel. Negative 4 minus a negative 14. So that becomes a positive 10x squared. 5 minus 14. That becomes a negative 9x. And then we bring down our 1. And we say from x squared to 10x squared, oh, that's a positive 10 that we'd have to multiply by. So we distribute this 10 to each term here. So we'll have a 10x squared minus 20x plus 20. Remember, we are subtracting again, which leaves us with our 10x squareds cancel. Negative 9 minus a negative 20, that is a 11x. And then negative 1 minus 20, that is negative 21. Okay, so at this point we have nothing else to bring down. So this right here would be our remainder. Okay. This whole thing here. Okay, but we can write it a little bit differently. Instead of doing this R thing, we're going to write it like we did this second time using this form. Okay, so as we come below, so our answer is, looking up here what we have at the top, it's 2x squared plus 7x plus 10. Then we're going to add our remainder, which is 11x minus 12, and we're going to divide that by what we were dividing by here. So that is our x squared minus 2x plus 2. It's no different from what we were doing above, how we took our remainder of 2, divided it by our 9 as our remainder. That's the same thing as what we did here. So we had 11x minus 21 as our remainder. We divided that by what we were dividing our whole polynomial by. And this is our final answer then. Okay? Now, what I need you to do is pause the video. We're not going to have time to finish this on this video. So click on the part 2 of this video.